Hello, I'm JW. This time we have a timing machine to look at, and it's this thing in this steel case here. And essentially it's one of these things that turns various things on and off at the predefined hours. So let's have a look inside and see if we can actually get the thing working. So here's the timer, and it comes in this fairly substantial metal enclosure. A little label on the front there says it's made by AMF, and just says time control under that. Now it opens with this sort of catch arrangement on the side, just goes pressing that in, and then of course the lid will open up. So inside we've got the original installation and operating instructions on the label stuck in the lid. Someone's made some amendments here with a pen, but of course it's all there. And warning label on the front here. Now, given the fact that this has horrendously faded, it suggests that the cover of this was left open for an extended time and the sun has caused this to fade somewhat. As presumably this would have been printed in red originally, though bizarrely the actual label in the lid hasn't faded at all, and the lid is captive on there, so it wasn't as if the lid was taken off and placed elsewhere. Single screw here, so we'll just remove that, and then we can see the terminals underneath. Now this is apparently just a piece of cardboard with the label stuck on the front, and then underneath of course we have the terminals and connections. Now the dial itself is basically a 7-day arrangement, so we've got the various days marked around here, and of course night and day indicated by the black and white segments there. And as it says on here, do not turn, because the part that turns is actually the piece behind, not the actual pointer, which indicates the current day and time. And the switching is done by these small tappets here, which just loosen, and then you can of course move that to the appropriate place. Now this actually has one missing, because of course there should be one of each, the on and off for each of the pairs, and we've only got 3 pairs plus an odd one. They do take off fairly easily, and it's the usual kind of arrangement. You've got a little peg underneath there, and of course the on and off pegs are in different positions, so of course that will just pull around onto the mechanism here and either turn it off or on depending on where you have positioned it. So of course someone presumably took the one off there, dropped it on the floor, and then the cleaning lady swept it up and got rid of it. So there is one missing, but nevertheless it doesn't majorly affect this. And of course as it rotates, it will then turn on off the switch here at the side. So that's one switch there, and then it will again switch in the other direction when the other piece moves past. As I say, 7-day thing, so it's going to take a full week for this to make one rotation, so of course that's incredibly slow. And at the bottom here we've got the terminals. These are also print on the instructions, but it's pretty straightforward. You've basically got each pair of terminals is switched, so that's sort of one switch, that's another, and that's another, so you've essentially got 4 individual switching points, and the top 2 of these are actually all bonded together. And then the final 2 over here is actually for the clock motor, so just connect your power to that to drive the thing, and you can connect whatever combination you would like to the various contacts. And the stud down in the bottom there for the earth connection, of course, connected to the metal casing. So here's the instructions, and it's all fairly straightforward, so well in accordance with the requirements. And it's just a question of tightening the tripping items there. Apparently came with some extra ones in the envelope, but of course that's long since gone. This was printed in 1973 there. You've got the date there, 6/1/73, which is probably the 1st of June 73, as this is an American item. So this is sort of 43 or 42 years old, or at least the label is, so you presume the thing itself is of a similar age. There's the terminal arrangement, so again you've got basically 4 pairs of contacts, and then the motor terminals at the end just to drive the thing round. This is quite a high rating. We've got 40 amps tungsten, that would obviously refer to lighting, and it does either 120 or 240 volts AC, and the motor itself is again the same voltage and 50 hertz, so obviously made for the UK market despite it being an American item. Paragon Electric Company, subsidiary of AMF Incorporated. Now let's just take this out, and as in instructions it's a question of moving this spring piece at the top. Then the whole thing actually lifts out as it just clips around these posts at the bottom. So the whole thing just lifts away and then just left with the empty case at the bottom. So here's the timer mechanism, and you can see this is just an aluminium or some other metallic plate. And if you look inside there, see you've got a little motor on the back to drive the thing, and that just comes straight through, and then you've got various gearing arrangements there, because obviously this only needs to rotate once per week. And the contacts at the bottom here just go straight through onto the back, and the switching point is here. And you see we can just move that across, it just moves this bar. So that's in the on position with all of the contacts closed, and then in the alternative position they're just open. So it is just literally 4 completely separate switches, and then the 2 wires come across to the motor. So this has these copper links between them, but of course they are only optional. You could easily remove those, and certainly according to the instructions it seems likely that they actually would have come in a separate envelope anyhow, so you could just fit those if you wanted to. Now this is actually going to rotate incredibly slowly, bearing in mind the front plate to say is only 1 revolution per week, and the motor on the back here, little synchronous motor, again 240 volts, 50 hertz, 3 watts, and job to see actually what the speed is, but it's either 1/60th or it's 60 RPM, in which case it's going to be on the slow side. So let's power the motor up anyway and see if we can actually see it rotating. Now here's the actual gearing mechanism in the back here. This is the motor, and then the sort of backing plate and the front timepiece on the side here. Mains power here just for those 2 yellow wires to the motor, which come up on the side there. And just zoom in a bit, we can have a look at the gearing a bit more closely. So you see down there the brass spindle coming through from the motor, and then of course you've got the various other gears and things there driving the front plate via the large one there. Now we can power this on, and so the motor on the back says it's either 1/60th of a revolution per minute or it's 60 revolutions per minute. And if it's going to be 1/60th per minute, then we're not going to actually see anything, but nevertheless we'll switch it on and see if anything does happen. Well, the motor is running. There's a little window in the back, you can see the internal parts moving, but unfortunately it appears it's actually the 1/60th of a revolution per minute, so we're not going to see a great deal on here. So unless you wish to wait around for an hour or so, then we're not going to see anything. So it does appear to be rotating on the back, but so of course it's horrendously slow. So there's the motor on the back, and see that little window there, and with the power on, as you see it does actually rotate. So unfortunately, as that does appear to be 1/60th, then of course it's going to be an extremely long time before we even get a single revolution of the front of it. So the Paragon electric time switch, weekly dial, which is not too surprising that the motor itself was actually a very slow speed, 1/60th of a revolution per minute, so basically 1 revolution per hour. So if we want to sit around for an hour, we could see that tiny little brass cog rotate once. So of course we're not going to be doing that, but nevertheless quite a well-made thing, and very high capacity on those terminals. So you've got 4 of them, and you've got 40 amps per contact, so that's a substantial amount of lighting, as it was presumably intended for. So there we have it. So until next time, thanks for watching.